Hey guys, what's it going here? It's the Lazy Stone here. Welcome back to the Swoop channel, where we play gameplays and have reactions from time to time. Now, listen, I'm just I'm just pumping out videos. Again, huge shout out to my fans. All right, I'm gonna put them on the video. All right, huge shout out to y'all. And if you want to shout out, let me know in the comment section below. Today we're gonna be talking about the downward spiral of a free speech pervert. And this is by the interesting stuff from around the world. Make sure to subscribe and like the video once you go over there on their channel. Check them out. Turn the notification button on, and let's go.
Speech is supposedly the cornerstone of democracy and human rights, a powerful tool that can change the course of history, propel a civilization forward, or be used to annoy people on the internet. But what are the limits of this idea? Should your enemies be granted freedom of speech if they will use it against you? Are there words that should never be spoken as they are just too offensive? Should people that like children a little too much be allowed to try and convince others that this behavior is okay?
Listen. Okay, it's one thing to just care about kids and give them care, but saying that you like kids, as in love kids, nigga, you could get your own fucking kid. It's called adoption. And if you do some weird shit with them, then get your ass locked up. That's all I've got to say. Get your ass locked up if you doing that freak shit. Now, I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying that will happen if you do that weird shit with the kids. I'm saying you will get punished by the full of extent to the fucking law, okay? But to care for an individual, a kid, right? Giving them the support they need so they could grow up and be a good individual themselves, and they could grow up and take care of themselves. Yes, if you want to be like that was a weird sound. Anyways, as I was saying, if you want to be like someone who to look up to, then yeah, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, if you like kids like that to the point where you want to do things to them, yeah, no.
Today we will be looking at a man who pushes the boundaries of freedom of speech everywhere he goes, and learning the lesson that when people use their freedom of speech to tell you who they are, maybe you should listen. This is the Amos Yee story.
The what?
Interesting.
Homie, put his name on the
Amos
screen.
Yee Pang Sang was born on the 31st of October 1998 in Singapore. He was raised as a Catholic, with him being named after the prophet Amos, and as a young child he would embrace Catholicism, attending mass independently of his family. Amos was a creative youngster who loved the YouTuber The Angry Video Game Nerd, so his parents brought him a video camera and he tried to emulate his YouTube hero. The Angry Video Game Nerd had showed him that he could make good quality videos by himself, so that's what he started to do. In 2011, Amos would enter a local film festival being held by a newspaper. His short film titled Jan was about a girl with a terminal illness, and Amos would play every part as a group of children who would discuss whether they wanted to help Jan or not. The climax being them all getting shot with a ukulele.
We just have to raise $500,000 before it's too late. $500,000? To hell? I believe this request is simply absurd for us diminutive kids to try to comprehend.
This short film was praised as a twisted, dark comedy, with Amos winning the Best Actor and Best Short Film awards.
I mean, homie got some acting skills. I ain't gonna lie. He didn't stutter. He didn't pause from his fucking lines. I'm just freestyling this. Like, for example, this reaction. I'm just freestyling with this shit. But him, boy, I think he got them lines noted down, in the back of his brain. He knows his shit. That's some talent. That's good talent.
A new video camera and editing software being his prize. The film festival wasn't a youth competition, so Amos had beaten hundreds of well-seasoned, fully grown adults, which meant that he was now regarded as a child prodigy of sorts. Honestly, I didn't think his short film was very good, but I'm not a film critic, so what do I know? I did read somewhere that maybe he was given the win as having a 13-year-old winner would bring attention to the film festival. The
I think
judge
it
for
would.
the competition was a movie director named...
Because to be honest, I would be tuning in on television just to watch a bunch of adults become actors, to be honest with you. Unless they're in the fucking theaters, in the films, in big films, I would give a fuck. But if you are just a grown-ass man, an actor trying to make it out, I don't give a fuck. But then again, do what you gotta do to make that bread, man. I hope you become successful, But at the same time, it's not gonna be me giving a fuck to the fullest extent. I'm just saying. But a 13-year-old being a fucking actor, right? Trying to show off his acting skills. Yeah, I'm 100% support that shit. Yeah, prodigy. But the thing is, the film industry in fucking Hollywood is getting exposed in this nowadays. So that's another situation we must look into.
Jack Neo, who would take Amos under his wing and offer him an internship. He also cast him in a movie called We Not Naughty, in which Yi would improvise and improve the script for his part, and Neo would say that Amos was a critical part of the movie. Amos was again heaped with praise for his part in the movie, but during the press conference he would say that the editing for the movie was done poorly and the movie was very confusing. The director Jack Neo would try to play this off by saying, just because Yi acts arrogant doesn't mean he is an actor, he is playing a role.
Right.
Spoiler alert, this is incorrect. Amos was now starting to show his true colours and foreshadowing his outspoken nature, a nature that would come to plague him in the not too distant future. But before we get onto that, he appeared in an advert that I kind of love more than I should.
Are the nuggets really good?
Yeah, I really love the nuggets here. It's spicy and they contain like 7 different pepper seasoning spices. So that's what I'm really here for.
Oh, so you like spicy food?
Yeah, of course.
Well, you can spice me up anytime. Can you give me a number?
Amos would start to turn his attention to YouTube.
The way he just transitioned to that shit, and he doesn't stutter, he's playing around. I like that shit. All right, that's funny. That's fucking funny as shit. I ain't gonna lie. All right.
More and more as this gave him an outlet to speak his mind. He really loves to speak his mind. In one video, he would disrespect the Chinese New Year by claiming that it was just a rip-off of the Western New Year. The people of Singapore didn't seem to like this very much, and the video would get comments such as, "Such disrespect. Know your roots, brat. If not, read up before you make such a video." I did try to do a Singapore accent for that, but it really didn't work out too well. Anyway, this video would make news headlines and pave the way for the road that Amos would choose to walk. Amos would also start to fall down the atheist rabbit hole, with him stating that the biggest influence on him was T.J. Kirk, otherwise known as the Amazing Atheist.
Jesus Christ.
Probably not the best role model for a child, to be honest.
No,
Amos
not
would
at
watch
all.
many Amazing Atheist videos and was convinced to leave Christianity and embrace the intellectual, irrational world of atheism. This was only further cemented when he was talking to his priest about this, but was thrown out of the church for swearing. After watching a video by the Amazing Atheist on how pointless school was and how it was just like religion, Amos started to question why he was wasting his time at school, so dropped out just a few days before his final test. Amos was now sure that at the age of 16 he knew better than everyone else, and he was the enlightened being who could see clearly while everyone around him was blinded by dogmatic thinking. It's a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for him. Lee Kuan Yew was the first Prime Minister of Singapore and is recognised as the founding father of the modern state of Singapore. He would sadly die in 2015, and 5 days after his death, our little buddy Amos would post a video titled, "Lee Kuan Yew is finally dead." As you can no doubt guess, this video wasn't very kind to the recently deceased founder of Singapore. In this video, Amos claimed that Lee was a dictator who created fear. He also compared Lee to Jesus, which at first sounds like a compliment, but he then went on to say that both were power-hungry but pretended to be kind. Amos then went on to insult both the followers of Lee and Christians, then claimed that the government of Singapore was corrupt.
Lee Kuan Yew.
Now, okay, I could go ahead and say this. All right, so like there are people out there that are trying to cloak themselves as nice people and then take advantage of people. I've seen this happen thousands of times. But yeah, and I was trying to make a video about that, about the family religious cult that for some reason was able to factor a bunch of individuals who were unfortunately not able to produce resources for themselves, like take care of themselves. Unfortunately, those individuals are like poor and they don't have much going on. So what they would do, and it would be drug abusers on top of that, they'll be pulled into this the family cult, and they'd be used entirely for like their beliefs and efforts to just keep creating a huge cult, like to continue to spread the word, basically. So yeah, there's a lot of people, like the leaders of these cults, they just make themselves look nice, and then after that they'll make you do some degenerative shit. Like, it's crazy.
Was a horrible person.
But for this state here, this guy is acting like he knows him to begin with. Like, he has evidence to expose him, but I don't think he does.
Everyone is scared. Everyone is afraid that if they say something like that, they might get into trouble, which, give Lee Kuan Yew credit, that was primarily the impact of his legacy. But I'm not afraid. So if Lee Hsien Loong wishes to sue me, I will obliged to dance with him.
Lee Kuan Yew seems to have been much loved in Singapore, as this sparked outrage. Amos would get death threats and many people reporting him to the police. Even his own mother reported him to the police for this video. It seems that many people were blaming his parents for his behaviour, so his mother reporting him to the police seems to have been a way to appease the mob, and she states that she feared for his safety. The outrage didn't stop there though. The second Minister for Foreign Affairs is quoted to say, "It's not just any YouTube video. I think it was a YouTube video that crossed the red line on religion." And the Prime Minister of Singapore is quoted to say, "Governing authorities are open to criticism, but that the ability to exercise the freedom of expression comes with limits." Amos had hit the provocateur jackpot, so he followed it up by posting a drawing of Lee Kuan Yew engaged in an indecent act with former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. "How dare you, sir? I'll have you know that Margaret Thatcher is a national treasure." 2 days after posting his video, Amos was arrested for deliberate intention of wounding the religious or racial feelings, threatening, abusive or insulting communications, and obscenity. His arrest would spark outrage, but this time it was from the Western world. Amos spoke like an American and was saying things that people in the West take for granted, so this was seen as an affront to the sensibilities of the West. The New Yorker is quoted to say, "Ye's arrest doesn't just underscore his complaints about Singapore's backwardness on rights and freedom, it shows the country's dire need for cultural education through intelligent dissent." Something to be aware of when viewing the laws in Singapore is the history of this small city-state. This island was inhabited by about 1,000 people for most of its history until the British Empire turned it into a trading hub and immigrants began to flood in, mostly from China but also other parts of Malaysia. Skipping forward, and the island was taken by the Japanese in the Second World War in what is considered by many as the worst military defeat in British history. After the Japanese surrendered and the Second World War came to an end, the infrastructure of Singapore had been left in ruins and the country fell into chaos. As time passed, the island was rebuilt and in 1963 it was given independence from Britain, becoming part of Malaysia, but this didn't last long due to political differences, and in 1965 Singapore became a sovereign state. Then in 1969 the island would be overwhelmed with race riots which left 196 people dead. These riots happened when ethnic tensions between the Chinese and Malaysian people on the island erupted into violence. All this is just a long-winded way of me saying that Singapore is a multicultural state with lots of ethnic and religious interests that need to be balanced, which is why these laws came into existence. Anyway, back to the story. Amos was released on bail and told that he could not go onto the internet. Amos's father would then address the Prime Minister and say that he was sorry. Amos is not one to follow the rules, so he went onto the internet and asked people to help with his legal costs. He also posted links to his video and drawing of Lee Kuan Yew and Margaret Thatcher. He was arrested again and put in prison for 4 days, but was bailed out by a stranger named Vincent Law. Vincent Law is an odd part of this story, so let's get to know him a little better. Vincent is a family man, youth counsellor and a Christian. He stated that he was not offended by the things that Amos said and that he believes in free speech, which is why he decided to help Amos. As we will see as the story goes on, helping Amos never works out well for the Good Samaritans, but I guess at this stage no one really knew what kind of person Amos was. So many people would join his cause, and he even had 3 lawyers offered to represent him pro bono. The eyes of the West were upon him, and Amos was doing all that he could to be the victim they craved. He was helped further when a man slapped him outside of the court in full view of the world's press. The man who slapped him said that he did this in an effort to instill fear into Amos and sort out his attitude. The happy slapper was given 3 weeks in prison. 8 days after being released, Amos would post blogs about how silly his bail conditions were and accuse his father of physically abusing him. So he was sent back to prison. Vincent Law would offer to pay his bail again, but Amos refused as he didn't.
Jesus Christ, at this point, just go to fucking America, bro. Go to America and just talk shit. Talk as much shit as you want. I don't care. But the thing is, you know it's going to get you in trouble. You know you're going to get, like, I understand he's probably trying to be a martyr or some shit. I don't know if that's his case here. But the thing is, I don't think I'm using the right term correctly. But the thing is, he's trying to be down, so down bad that he's not down bad, but he's like trying to, in a way, get as much attention as he can to be a symbol of something, like some type of MLK type shit. You know what I mean? Martin Luther King, even though that was supposed to be a very that is a significant part of U.S. history. Okay? Very significant. But he wasn't supposed to die for that shit. He was supposed to reach freedom for, people of my culture, black people. But him? You're literally talking shit to like a politician of a higher status. You are just a commoner, and they're obviously treating you the way they would treat anybody talking shit about politics. You could do that in America. You cannot do this where you are at right now. Okay? I'm just saying.
Didn't want to be silenced. The courts would offer him opportunities to go free, such as taking down his blog posts, but Amos saw this as an admission of guilt, so refused. Amos was also offered release if he reported to a police station daily and went for psychiatric counselling, but again he refused and decided to remain in prison. On the 7th of May 2015, the trial began and Vincent Law turned up to show his moral support for Yi. Amos's defence would argue that the video was meant to critique Christianity and Lee Kuan Yew to open discussions on what he saw as problems with the faith in Singapore. The Wall Street Journal would write, "This trial shows Singapore's struggle to adapt its tradition of censorship to the realities of the digital era." After a short trial, Amos was found guilty and given bail while he awaited sentencing. He was ordered to remove the posts from the internet, which he did, but I'm sure that you can guess that Amos didn't stick to this, and 9 days later he made them public again. The more games that Amos played, the more attention he would get, with Human Rights Watch stating, "Publicly punishing a youthful dissident who dared to besmirch the image of the recently passed leader, and intimidating anyone else who might think of doing the same in the future," and Amnesty International declaring him a prisoner of conscience. While awaiting sentencing, Amos would write a Facebook post that should have started to ring alarm bells for anyone supporting him, but largely seems to have flown under the radar. In this post, he would accuse Vincent Law of him. The stranger who offered him support and bowed him out denied these claims, stating that he only met Amos 4 times and each time they were in public places. Amos then said that these accusations were not true, but Mr. Law was creepy. Vincent Law then threatened to sue Amos if he didn't do a public apology, so Amos said that he was extremely remorseful for the turmoil, and Mr. Law dropped the lawsuit. I hate myself. Amos then retracted his apology and wrote an expose about how Law him emotionally, and claimed that because the word can mean a few different things, his statement wasn't untrue. He also said that Law's stupid religious mindset was the only reason that he thought that Amos would ever apologise for real. Mr. Law wisely decided to just ignore Amos from that point forward. Amos, being the humble person that he is, then posted to Facebook comparing himself to Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, claiming that he was a martyr for free speech.
See, okay, yeah, so I wasn't wrong with that term, martyr, or a martyr, or whatever the fuck he said, but yeah, he seems to be so down for the cause that he's willing to give his life away for this shit. His freedom. Even though it you know what I mean? Like, they're not afraid to take that shit away from him. The system that he's in, he could be put back in it, no problem. They'll keep doing it until he figures out that he can't be the one to liberate. He can't liberate that shit. I'm sorry. He just can't. You can't win.
The judge in the court case then remanded Amos to a mental health institute for 2 weeks. Probably not a bad idea, really. The night before he was sentenced, Amos was taken to hospital for low blood glucose due to him not eating or sleeping. This didn't stop the sentencing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get to do that either. It would just be part of his fucking, part of him, protesting. Like, that's crazy.
And he was given 4 weeks in prison, but due to time already served, he was free to go. All through the trial, Amos was known in Singapore for a smirk that he would always have on his face. But after he was released from the courts, he now had a sad, somewhat worried look on his face, which the Western press would pick up on. Amnesty International saying that this was a dark day for freedom of expression. The attention wasn't just coming from the West though, and many protests began to break out over Asia, with some of them burning images of Lee Kuan Yew. On a side note, Amos's mother would later say that the sad look on his face was fake, and that when he got into the car, he was smiling and acting as if nothing had happened. Amos was now a hero for free speech all around the world. A young man taking on an unjust system, unflinching.
But that's the problem, though. There's like higher status ass people who are saying they could do whatever they want to you. Not like that way, but they could literally give you a prison sentence and then let your ass go. Over and over again. They could do that. But now that you got all this attention, maybe it wouldn't be that crazy. It wouldn't be that predictable anymore. So this is crazy.
Uncompromising, a martyr willing to go to prison for what he believes in. Amos now knew.
There you go again, martyr. All right, martyr. So yeah, I get it. Okay, so I was right. Okay.
People wanted, and he was more than willing to give it to them. On the 27th of November 2015, Amos would post a reply to someone in which he insulted Islam, and again he was arrested. On the 29th of September 2016, he was sentenced to 6 weeks in prison and fined $2,000 for wounding religious feelings. This would again bring attention to Amos, and his YouTube channel had begun to grow to the point where he could now make a living from this. Sadly for Amos, he had a big problem approaching that he needed to escape from. He was soon to be 18 years old, and in Singapore this means that he would need to serve 2 years.
My nigga's rocking the Naruto shirt, believe it.
Is mandatory military service. Amos had chosen the correct time to make a stand for free speech, as this was the same time that free speech was a big talking point on the internet. Melissa Chen is a free speech activist who was born in Singapore but now lives in America. She would take up Amos's case, being his champion, arranging interviews with people like the Rubin Report. These communications with higher profile people would give Amos an idea. He should seek asylum in the USA. This would fix all of his problems and offer him the free speech that he so dearly longed for. Amos made friends with a lady named Nina Paley who lived in America. She offered him a place to stay in her boyfriend's home if Amos ever made it to the USA, so a GoFundMe was set up, and Melissa Chen went out to visit him while he was under house arrest in Singapore to arrange the details. A big push was made to get Amos to the USA so that he could escape his tyranny, and in December 2016 he would fly to China where he would catch a flight to America. Upon arrival in the USA, he was interrogated at the airport and disclosed that he wished to seek asylum in the country. He was then detained and put into an immigration centre while his application was processed. While at the centre, Amos was given a psychological assessment and diagnosed as a narcissist. Not a big surprise, to be honest. In total, he would spend 11 months at the immigration centre where he would pass the time by playing chess. Amos would get much help from his new American free speech friends, and his human rights lawyer would argue to the court that he would be persecuted in his homeland. This wasn't a very difficult thing to prove given how public his trial was and how much attention he had drawn to himself. Amos won the court case and was released. He now had the ability to apply to be a full citizen of the USA after a year had passed. All he had to do was keep his nose clean. He was further incentivized by the fact that missing his compulsory military service made him what is known as a defaulter, a crime that carries a prison sentence of 36 months and a fine of up to $10,000 if he ever returned to Singapore. Amos was again in the news for his asylum bid, with Reuters reporting that Yi was critical of the US foreign policy and quoting him to say, "It is not going to the best country. This is about going to the country that most effectively promotes my political philosophy of anarcho-communism and ending private property and wage labour." This is a point that never seems to get brought up when I hear people talking about Amos Yi. He is very far down the communism rabbit hole, and pretty much all of the people in America who helped him into the USA are right-wing people. Helping your political enemies get asylum in your country is a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for them. Amos went to live with Nina Paley's boyfriend and things were looking good for him. He was now able to say what he wanted. He had a growing YouTube channel, all of the free speech YouTubers on his side, and he was getting booked to give speeches in real life. One of these speeches was at the prestigious University of Harvard, where he was due to give a talk titled "Jowled for Dissent." He was the darling of the freedom-loving right wing and had the world at his feet, so he decided to do the only logical thing that someone in his position could do. In 2016, he posted a video titled "Why Child Fee Should Be Legal." It's a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for him. He would then upload more and more of this kind of content, trying to justify the unjustifiable. Soon word got around that Amos had taken a new direction in life, so one of the events that he was due to speak at contacted him in an attempt to get him to retract his statements, but he refused. So they would cancel his invite and post this statement: "Moments ago, we spoke to Amos Yi directly about our concerns regarding some of his tweets. Amos made it clear that he will not retract his previous statements. We were not initially aware of these statements, but our community called our attention to them. MIFCON does support exploration of a wide array of ideas. However, his views regarding the potential abuse of children lie on the fringes of culture and political thought, and will not further the goals of MIFCON. We support his right to free speech, but cannot support his participation in our event as an attendee. Hence, Amos is no longer invited to attend the conference. The criticisms we received for Yi's attendance online did cause us to look into his views further, and we don't feel he is a good fit for MIFCON." Amos didn't take this lying down though and tried to sneak into the event, but was found out and escorted off the premises. Then 24 hours before he was due to speak at Harvard, this talk was also cancelled. Amos had in a very short time found the limits of free speech in America and was very outspoken about how hypocritical the free speech activists in his new home were. Amos was undeterred by these setbacks and made many more videos about this topic, comparing child admirers to having the same struggles as black people or gay people in America. This newfound love would start to get a lot of pushback, so he would make a video.
Explain what a child admirer is to me, please, because I don't get what he means by that. That they have the same struggle as black. Are you saying that pedophiles have the same struggles as black people? Because I can tell you right now, I don't think you should be comparing the two different groups here, man. That's wild.
video comparing the skeptic community to the people of Singapore, claiming that they are both closed-minded. At this stage, it seems that most of his free speech friends thought that Amos was just trolling or being edgy, trying to push the boundaries. He himself would claim that he has never been a troll and that he is just talking about these things as an intellectual endeavour. He would also, from time to time, argue that it was okay to have relationships with animals and family members. As you do. Perfectly normal intellectual endeavours. Not everyone took this as edgy internet posts.
As in what? Like, you ain't gonna slip that past by me and just say, oh yeah, it's okay to have a relationship with animals and where is he taking this to? What?
Posting though, and Child Protective Services were called on him. You see, Amos was living with the boyfriend of Nina Paley. This man also had foster kids living in the same home, so as you can imagine, Amos was asked to move out. He was now homeless and ended up sleeping on a couch owned by modern day hippies, as he puts it. Amos still had his internet career, so had money coming in, and eventually moved to Chicago, where he would just keep posting the same kind of content. This topic seems very important to him.
So he's a danger to kids. That's crazy.
I wonder why. He would start to do debates on this topic with well-known internet personalities, none of which went very well for him, if I'm honest. His position is a very difficult one to argue for.
He was with Destiny too? Okay, all right.
And also, he just wasn't very good at it. Watching these debates, it becomes very clear that Amos is not as intelligent as he thinks he is, so he is always on the losing side. In case you were wondering, Amos lost his virginity at age 19 to a 22-year-old. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't really know where else to put it. I'm sure that most of you wouldn't be able to sleep tonight unless you found that out. In 2018, his YouTube channel was demonetized after CNN did a report about the extremist channels that were on the website and were being allowed to show ads. Amos's channel was featured in this report, and after the Toy Industry Association pulled ads from YouTube, Amos's channel was removed. A short time later, he would also...
So he was promoting that term. Okay. All right, I was just making sure. Yeah, he's a fucking freak monster. Okay.
His Facebook, Twitter and Patreon accounts. The internet was his main source of income, so this was a big blow for him, but Amos had a real passion for this topic, so he would continue to post in whatever corner of the internet that he could. It was around this time that most people started to realise that maybe this isn't just some edgy guy on the internet trying to push the boundaries, but an activist trying to normalise things that shouldn't be normalised. His once allies started to distance themselves from him, with Melissa Chen, the person who facilitated Amos entering the USA, calling for him to be deported.
So you just came to the US talking about all these communist dictator politic leaders just to become part of the sex offender list? That's wild. That is really wild.
I'm not sure why I found this little detail so funny, really. Amos now found himself in a strange land with no money and no friends. Well, there was one community that now loved him, I guess. Amos had been banished to the Shadow Realm, the dark, seedy places of the internet, so he set up a Discord server that would advocate for pro-contact. I'll be honest, I don't know what this means and I really don't want to look into it, but I would guess that it means doing stuff in real life rather than just talking about it on the internet. The story would then go around Twitter, which was posted by a 14-year-old girl who claimed that Amos and her exchanged indecent images. She would post videos of a chat room in which he begged for photos many times and posted photos of him that he had sent to her. This would largely go unnoticed, as most people had already forgotten about Amos since he was cancelled, and the big creators that had supported him just wanted to brush their association with him under the rug. Amos would change his online name to Kino and do a live stream on someone else's channel in which he said that the allegations are just rumours. He would then start a blog under the name Polycle, which is a combination of polymath and oracle. On this blog, he would claim to be a child prodigy. Narcissism coming on nicely, I see. This blog was as you would expect from Amos at this point. The guy really has a passion for this topic. In October 2020, Amos Yee was arrested for exchanging photos with a 14-year-old girl. I would guess that this is the same one from...
Oh my god. Okay. Yep. It's crazy. It's wild. Yeah, how the great has fallen. Yeah, people were carrying signs about him, free Amos, right? Because he was being an activist. And which is perfectly fine. The only problem is you're trying to do that crazy shit that you admired so much and beg for a 14-year-old to give you pictures is it's one way to get yourself put onto the list. Not only the list, but in order to put yourself into the justice system, and also just to be put on watch close by, because God knows what you'll be doing with the kids that you love so much. Yeah, really, really bad look. Especially when you had people supporting you for your freedom. But what do you do with that? How do you return that favor from them? Well, you just go ahead and go after kids. Yeah, that's definitely that's the best way to give a gift back to somebody who already gave you the gift of acknowledgement and ability to have your own platform, only for you to just fall down so greatly. That is incredible.
Twitter, but it's not confirmed. In the court case, Amos would plead not guilty and claim that he was just trolling on the internet. An interesting detail that I think shines a light on the type of person that Amos is. During the court case, Amos would interrupt the proceedings so much that his public defender is quoted to say, "Just keep your mouth shut." Amos would then go on to take a plea deal for a sentence of 6 years in prison. He was also warned that he may be deported back to Singapore, where he would face charges.
Yeah, that's another thing I was about to talk about. He's probably going to get expedited back into his country for, breaking those laws, because, yeah.
As a defaulter. Due to time already served and parole, Amos was released 2 years after he was sentenced. And in October 2023, he was put into a home share with other people like him. While in this home, he would start a blog. It's a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for him. On this blog, he would continue to talk about the topic that he is so passionate about and state that he would break the law again if the opportunity arose with someone that he found attractive. He would also state that he plans to do an illegal protest to bring public attention to this topic. Unsurprisingly, in November 2023, he was arrested again for violating his parole and sent back to prison. Amos Yee is an interesting self-destructive character who seems intent on burning all bridges and betraying everyone that tries to help him. A man who can find the exact wrong thing to say in every society that he finds himself in. A man that overinflates his own ego and grasp on reality. And a man who only really cares about himself. I honestly think that Amos truly sees himself as some kind of freedom fighter, an enlightened being that the rest of us just don't understand. And in the years to come, we will catch up and history will remember him as the good guy. His story does raise some interesting questions though. For most of my adult life, I've only seen freedom of speech as a good thing, but now I'm not so sure. It seems to me that freedom of speech can only exist in an ideologically homogenous society where everyone agrees that it is an important ideal. Whether we like it or not, words and ideas are powerful things, and being so frivolous with them may not be wise. The Western world is now divided into a few different competing ideologies trying to assert dominance over each other, with some realising that it's a silly idea to allow your competition to propagate their ideas, while others seem intent on holding freedom of speech as the highest virtue to the bitter end. I guess only time.
Yeah, so with that being said, yeah, freedom of speech. Yeah, listen, I'm surprised that they're trying to normalize, and they're trying, attempting to normalize meeting up with kids and doing adult things with kids. And I'm thinking, you're out of your fucking mind if you're doing that. So, yeah. As far as that goes, I think freedom of speech is very important here in this country, the United States, where I live. And I believe that, without doubt, I believe that people should be able to speak their own minds, do whatever they want to do, set up a fucking podcast, say dumb shit, blah, 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 gobbledygook, whatever the fuck you want to do. But I don't think it's okay for you to say, okay, we should start doing this now in our society. We don't push those boundaries in order for people to just continue to make themselves look good, even though they're committing a crime. We shouldn't be doing that. That's all I gotta say.
Will tell which one of these competing factions will come out on top. My guess would be that sooner or later everyone will realise that restricting speech is a necessary step on the path to victory, which will be rubbish as my speech is already restricted enough. But in the battleground for ideas, words are the most powerful weapon, and he who does not use the weapons at his disposal is destined to lose. I'm not saying that I particularly like this, more it's just a prediction of what I think is to come. I change my mind on pretty much a weekly basis though, so don't hold me to this in the future.
Right.
There is a funny interview that I came across while researching this video. Amos was interviewed by someone called Jesse Lee Peterson, who is an American conservative, and the clash of ideas between the two
Didn't he
I found
die?
pretty funny. Don't know much about Jesse Lee Peterson, so if any of you guys follow him and could answer whether he's trolling or not, I honestly couldn't really make out if he was. Sometimes he seemed pretty sincere, and other times he seems like he was just saying stuff to get a reaction.
Didn't this guy die? Did he die? I think he died. Okay.
Anyway, as things stand, Amos Yee is due to be released from prison in April 2025. It is unclear at this stage if he will be sent back to Singapore to face charges as a defaulter or stay in the good old US of A. Wherever he ends up, let's hope that he stays away from kids.
I'm gonna have to keep up with you. You're very interesting.
Oh, thank you.
At 19.
Sure.
Very interesting.
Not many people have said that. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to keep up with you to see what happens to you when you're 18 and when you're 20. And when
Oh
you're...
yeah, that's what many people say. They're very curious how I'll turn up, like you know, a revolutionary or like a complete bum.
Watch this video about the man.
Well, you ended up to be a complete bum, and yeah. Stay away from them kids. Maybe your ass wouldn't be picked off as a criminal and an EDP. But unfortunately, that's who you are today. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the video, remember, like I said before, the lyrical link will be in the description. Make sure to support the interesting world. Let me just go back. To support the interesting stuff from around the world. And as always, I'll be back to react to more videos. See you guys later.